Now this morning, Mr. Rini and you solved a crime. Now, this crime, as you guys learned this morning, took place in 1096 in a very, very, very important city called Jerusalem. And you solved the crime of a murder. Now, whether you knew that you were actually solving this crime or not, the crime that you solved is formally now known as the Crusades. If you guys have ever played the video game Assassin's Creed, that takes place during the Crusades. So now, kids, let me give you the basic overview of what you guys looked a little bit into this morning. Now, you looked at the Jewish perspective, you looked at the Muslim perspective, you looked at the Christian perspective, you looked at the perspective of the Pope himself, and I'm assuming that you guys came up with the answer of, okay, Huntsinger, yeah, the guilty party here is either the Pope or the Christians. They're the ones that came into the city of Jerusalem and started massacring everybody. Now let's take a couple step backs and actually see what really happened during this event known as the Crusades. So, as we've already talked about, the Crusades were when Christians from Europe went down into the Middle East in search of this city known as Jerusalem. Now, as you guys can see by this map, Jerusalem, to the much sadness of the Christians, was occupied by the religion of Islam. The Muslims controlled that city. So the Pope decrees this proclamation saying, listen, Christians, if you go down to Jerusalem and you fight to retake our holy city, no matter what happens for the rest of your life, you will go to heaven. If you die trying to retake the city of Jerusalem, bink, automatic ticket to heaven. So as you guys can probably imagine, people flocked to the holy city of Jerusalem. They left behind their really boring lives living as a peasant in Europe, went to Jerusalem seeking some adventure, trying to kill some people, and automatically getting your ticket to heaven. Now, I want to just show you this video. It's a great stinking video, kids. It's going to just show you the theatrical version of what the Crusades were actually like. Enjoy.
For thousands of years, the holy lands of the Middle East have run with blood. Here, the scars of battle fought between three of the great religions of the world are etched into the earth. But the deepest wound was made by a war between Christian and Muslim, begun at the close of the 11th century and fought for 200 years. At stake, a tiny strip of land just a few hundred miles long, but with the greatest prize, Jerusalem. Now this holy war has passed into legend. But there were those who saw it with their own eyes. Great chroniclers from two different worlds, Christian and Muslim, who wrote of great deeds, great battles, great warriors, of men who would lay down their lives for their God. This was the collision of two great faiths, a clash between the crescent and the cross. This was the Crusades.
Oh, come on. That's way too stinking cool. All right, so now, this is what a typical scene in Jerusalem would look like. Now, you guys probably are seeing some things that are very familiar. Okay, you got the mosque in the background. It's on fire. You have these guys here looking up towards God. Notice their red crosses on their chest, indicating that they are indeed Christians. And on the floor, you see Muslims dead or dying. You guys talked about that this morning. So what is the background of all of this violence? What's the background of all this death and murder and sadness? You guys read this morning that there was a mosque that literally had blood up to people's knees. This is graphic, gory stuff. So as you guys already know, in feudal Europe at the time, the church had the most power, and the Pope was the head of the church, right? So when the Pope tells you to do something, you must do it. Now, the Pope really wanted to get the city of Jerusalem back under Christian control. So he bribes Christians, essentially, and says, okay, Christians, if you go and fight on my behalf to take re-control of the city of Jerusalem, no matter what happens, bada bing, bada boom, you're going to heaven. So as you guys can imagine, people flocked to the city of Jerusalem. But during medieval times, travel was difficult. It wasn't actually easy to get there. So what they had to do is most people actually had to walk to the city of Jerusalem. This is thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. Now imagine walking thousands and thousands and thousands of miles and all of a sudden showing up, yay, I'm here, taking an arrow to the neck and dying. Yeah, this happened all the time. Now, here's the good news. Pseudo good news. So Muslims took control of Jerusalem in 1071. That sets the stage for the Crusades. The Christians obviously are not happy about this. So now the Byzantine emperor, this guy who was running the eastern section of Europe, he asked the Pope for help. He says, okay, Pope Urban, I need you to get people to come over and fight on behalf of Christianity. So 1096, voila! The first crusade was launched. And we are the champions. We are the champions. No time to lose us, 'cause we are the champions of the world. Now, the good news for Christians is after 3 years of fighting, massacre, blood, killing, and burning, the Christians retook Jerusalem. Yeah, they did it. Not so fast. Yeah, the Muslims almost immediately took it back. But Mr. Huntsinger, the Christians must have fought back and won again, right? For 100 more years, the Crusades continued and were unsuccessful for the Christians. They had a great first 3 years, and then 100 more years of defeat. Now, okay, there's 3 massive effects of these wars called the Crusades. All right, kids, now let's get to them. For literally 200 years of fighting, blood, death, sadness, guts, murder, blood. Okay, what was accomplished? Okay, at least there was 3 things. Number 1, feudalism weakened because serfs left home to fight. The Pope says, hey, if you go and fight for me, you go automatically to heaven. So these serfs, these really poor farmers, they're like, dude, I don't want to just farm potatoes for the rest of my life. I'm going to kill some people over in Jerusalem and automatic ticket to heaven. Now, number 2 effect of the Crusades, trade increase. Think about this. Travel was not very good back then, as you guys know. So what started happening is people from Europe started coming in contact with people from Africa, from people from the Middle East, and they started trading with one another. They brought goods, ideas, spices, concepts, medical knowledge, and people started trading all sorts of things. Now, number 3, major effect of the Crusades is that conflict still continues between Jews, Christians, and Muslims in Jerusalem. To this day, there is still fighting within this city. So now, kids, how did the Crusades affect Europe and the world? You tell me. When fighting, death, murder, sadness occurs in world history, how else do you think it affects the world? I want you guys to be thinking about that. And when I see you guys on Monday, you'll actually see my face virtually and in real life. We'll debrief this. We'll talk about this. Love y'all. See you guys on Monday.